How it works. App method technique. While user facing the iPhone's front camera TrueDepth. Like phone's Face ID holding no special head position or modifications needed. App starts surface scans of subjects' faces continuously. A wireframe texture of grid lines appears over user's face on screen matching the size, shape, topology of the user's face in real time. Subject's face should preferably be centered on screen. User should keep the facial musculature as relaxed as possible, avoiding also shaking hand movements while holding the phone. 1220. Unique predefined anthropometric landmarks of face ID number. Points are automatically and continuously captured over face surface. At user's face, a purple sphere usually below nose is printed and represents the center of X, Y, Z coordinate system origin point, 0, 0, 0. Yellow cylinders from origin point outline X, Y, Z. Perpendicular planes with different colors. Saggital plane is depicted blue. Frontal plane is depicted red and transverse plane is depicted green. Facial mid-linear sagittal plane, blue plane, divides in two sector the face right plus X, and left, X. User should remember that right side of face is depicted in left side of the screen. Topography of each anthropometric landmarks points over face ID numbers, by default can be visually identified and also can be studied with more details as export file. SCN, INS code. Geometry is continuously registered over faces wireframe from left and right side, namely 587 points left, 587 points right and 46 points in midline. Sagittal face plane distances of anthropometric landmarks points to sagittal plane, plus X, from right, and the distance of mirrored anthropometric landmarks points to left side, X. Side are calculated for each pair which represent the same reflected topographical face region left or right. Theoretically, bilateral landmarks on a perfectly symmetrical face should have equal but opposite values for the X coordinate. For example, right -5 mm, left +5 mm. Mean value of left and right distances for respective pairs are calculated and should be 0 in case of perfect symmetry. The differences in the left and right X values represent their degree of asymmetry in that plane, and their corresponding positive or negative value indicate asymmetry with directions left or right respectively. Negative values were assigned to all right side dominant measures, and positive values for all left side dominant measures. Deviation of anthropometric landmarks points toward one side right or left are depicted over faces side with color respectively. Namely, differences in pair points from 0 mm to 1 mm are depicted in green color and considered symmetric. Between 1 mm to 2 mm are depicted in yellow color, borderline asymmetric, and over 2 mm points are depicted in red color, asymmetric. Lateral deviation of 2 mm or more was employed as a critical value to separate asymmetry from symmetry. Dominant face side, DOM, is also computed and presented on screen. DOM is taken L value in case the left side of face is dominant, or R value in case the right side of face is dominant. Asymmetry index AI is calculated, which precisely indicates the extent to which the geometry of the surface of the face deviates from perfect symmetry. If the shape of face is symmetric, then AI index is 0%. The greater the deviations of face shape from perfect symmetry, the higher the value of AI %. Average distances from the left side in mm, AVGL. Average distances from the right side in mm, AVG. And max sensitivity button by default more than 1 mm difference in distances from mid-sagittal blue plane for each bilateral pair of anthropometric point. Turns color of points from green to yellow and over 2 mm to red respectively. By pressing plus or minus button, threshold from 1 mm is changed to the desired value of sensitivity respectively. For example, by pressing the plus button more value is added over 1 mm, thus less sensitivity is selected. Planes button. By selecting off the planes button, 3D planes and axis disappear from screen. IDs. By switching off numerical values of predefined anthropometric landmarks identification, unique number of points over wireframe no longer appear and a colored circle dot is depicted instead. Max min points are turning color by default at the side of face with the maximum absolute values. For example, right X equals -10 mm, left X equals +4 mm. Absolute values difference is 6 mm, 2 mm. Maximum absolute value is 10 on the right side. Thus red colored point, 2 mm, appears over right side of face. By turning the button to minutes, Color of points are turned at the side of face, this time with the minimum absolute values. Capture by pressing the button. The current screen is saved in photo album as a captured image. Freeze button. All parameters are being calculated in real time, namely several times in sec. Shaking hand movements while holding the phone or movement of subject can affect face measuring. User can select by seeing on screen the best motionless face position, and by pressing the freeze button the real-time calculation stops and freezes at current scene, thus avoiding lag errors at measurements. Data from face wireframe are stored internally. Meanwhile, real-time screen recordings pause and the same button changes description to unfreeze and appears over the button. Once the freeze button have been pressed, all graphical and calculated data can be exported by pressing other buttons like Save STL, Save SCN, and Report for the frozen time moment. By pressing the same button again, named Unfreeze this time, real-time measurements are restored once again.